Welcome to the Women in Motorsport program. I'm Isha Azim from Racing with Isha, and with me I have Ben Schneider from Grid Live Encore and LastCar.info, as well as Joe Samaniego. And as always, a big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin, Deshelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew, for their monthly investments. You too can invest in the Grid Network by clicking on the link in the video description. Or if you would like to do a one-time investment, you can always do that through Buy Me a Coffee or YouTube. Thanks. And be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our amazing content throughout the week. Now, let's get started. So Ben, let's start off with some interesting announcements from the Formula One Academy.
Thank you, Isha. Tina Hausmann is the third driver to be announced for the 2024 F1 Academy season. She will be racing for Prema Racing and representing the Aston Martin team. She'll have Jessica Hawkins as well behind her as she expands her role within the team. Hawkins is now the head of racing for Aston Martin's Formula One program. This year, Tina raced for Prema in the Italian Formula 4, Euro 4, and Formula Winter Series. After completing 4 races, she has 1 podium in the Formula Winter Series this past year. So we'll bring Isha and Joe back in here. Isha, how big of a benefit will it be to have Hawkins there to help Hausmann out as she makes her debut in F1 Academy next season?
Very big. I think it's going to be a great advantage for her to have Jessica Hawkins helping her in F1 Academy for, just a variety of reasons. But I think one of the main ones is that Jessica has already had experience in a modern F1 car due to her test drive with Aston Martin recently. So I think she's going to be able to help Tina Hausmann with all that experience and insight. And I also think that just in general, having somebody like Jessica Hawkins in your corner is very beneficial because she's got a lot of connections, a lot of experience, skills, advice that she can just, help you out with. So I think it's great that Tina Hausmann has Jessica in her corner.
I would agree with everything Isha said, and some other experience I think will help complement her is the fact that when it comes to Hawkins' experience, especially in the W Series, that could really help when it comes to the attention you're going to get. Because in the W Series, we know there's a lot of attention compared to Italian Formula 4, Formula Regionals globally. Now Tina's going to be entering this global stage with F1 Academy. Jessica Hawkins was on that global stage with W Series. She could tell her about handling the pressure, trying to just focus on your racecraft, the competition, and especially with these brand new racetracks that are coming up, they're going to be at F1 venues. They're not going to be like this past year where there are support series of other events. They're going to be there with the F1 paddock. So there's going to be a lot of media attention. I feel this is just a great, wonderful move to just have Jessica Hawkins there, be a guiding resource for her. And overall, it just seems like a slam dunk move to have Jessica Hawkins there with her experience, as Isha mentioned, and then, of course, in the W Series, handling all the pressures on being now on a big international stage. This is a huge benefit for her.
Well, Joe, Isha, let's take a look at the grid so far. Out of the 15 drivers and 15 spots, we have 3 confirmed. Bianca Bustamante will be representing McLaren at ART Grand Prix. Leah Block will also be at ART representing the Williams team, and now Tina Hausmann representing Aston Martin with Prema. Joe, of those 3, who do you think would be your way too early favorite for the championship?
It's easy to look at Bianca Bustamante with her experience from F1 Academy this past year, the resources she's going to have with McLaren, very much an easy favorite. We know Leah Block has a very different racing background, so there's going to be a learning curve, but she has Williams there as well as ARC Motorsports that could always help her out. Tina Hausmann, her experience in Formula 4 is a little bit hit or miss. She's going to have Jessica Hawkins there, but I think at the end, and it just seems like this is going to be Bianca Bustamante as one of the early favorites for 2024.
Yeah, Joe, I totally agree with you here. And Ben, as you mentioned, it is a little bit early to pick out a favorite for the championship, but if we had to pick one out of the 3, I would definitely also say Bianca Bustamante because she already has a year of experience with the F1 Academy under her belt. So I think that gives her the biggest advantage going into this next 2024 season as well.
Yeah, obviously Leah Block, comes from a racing family, and I think it would not surprise me at all if she's able to make that change and adapt a brand new form of motorsports very quickly. Obviously, open wheel racing is very different from what she's grown up on with the rally programs that she's been a part of. But I would say certainly I'm in agreement with both of you. I think when you look at when Bianca Bustamante's announcement was made, how early it was made, that shows the commitment that McLaren have to her. And of course, she has experience of a series this past year. I'm going to go with Bustamante as well. But then again, there's still 12 spots to be filled. Who knows who's going to be in those seats? So that could certainly change as we get closer to the start of the 2024 season. And of course, if we get further announcements, Grid Tonight will cover those throughout the rest of the year. This is our last show for 2023. We will be back with Women in Motorsports in January of 24 before the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. In the meantime, Isha, let's move on now. Let's talk about the newest NASCAR Drive for Diversity class that was just announced.
Yes, Ben, thank you. So, taking a look at the 2024 NASCAR Drive for Diversity class, we have 3 female racers in the class. That includes Lonnie Bice, Regina Servant, and Cassidy Keat. Now, let's take a quick look at each of these 3 drivers. So, from 2017 to 2020, Bice had 91 go-kart wins, including 23 in a row in her last season. She has also raced in the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series, earning 12 top 5 and 18 top 10 finishes during the 2023 late model season. Now, the second driver in the NASCAR Mexico Challenge Series, the 20-year-old Servant from Mexico City, finished 5th at the Tuxtla Gutierrez and 5th at Puebla. She received the 2019 Best Driver Award for NASCAR Mexico and was the recipient of the 2021 NASCAR Drive for Diversity Awards Young Racer. Servant was the first female to win in the Trucks Mexico Series, and she placed 3rd in the 2020 championship points. Now, for the third driver, Keat earned 2 top 5s and 5 top 10s in U.S. Legend cars at the Cookout Summer Shootout at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. She is the 2022 Young Lions Winter Heat champion and has won 2 races throughout the season. So now, Ben, Joe, how big of an opportunity is it to be part of the NASCAR Drive for Diversity class?
Well, it's absolutely massive. And, I still go back to one of the first races I covered on site, not this past year, but 2 years ago in 2022. I wasn't doing it with Grid Network. I was doing it with Brock Beard and LastCar.info, but it was the Cup Series race in Sonoma. It was won by Daniel Suarez, also from Mexico, as is Regina Servant. And Suarez said something in his post-race press conference that really stuck with me that I highlighted and tweeted out. And he said, if it wasn't for the Drive for Diversity, I don't think I'd be sitting here right now. And, thinking back to his story and what that program meant for him and the opportunities that he got with Toyota and with Joe Gibbs Racing, and then probably, like we were talking about on Encore earlier this week, Joe, getting promoted to the Cup Series a little bit earlier than he expected and not going out and winning right away, and people questioning whether or not he really had what it took. But, getting a second chance at, the Cup Series with Trackhouse and then breaking through and getting that win last year at Sonoma, that all of that doesn't happen if Daniel Suarez doesn't get that chance with that program. And so I think when you look at these 3 drivers, and particularly for Servant, to have Daniel Suarez kind of as a model of inspiration for what is possible for Mexican drivers coming up through this sport, for international drivers coming up through this sport, for female drivers potentially as well coming up through this sport, I think it's a very, very great opportunity for all 3 of them. And I'm excited to see what they can do in 2024 and beyond.
It is very huge. And one of the things I think a lot of people are sort of missing out as well, too, the fact that you have Mexican female driver from Mexico in a country where still, compared to the United States, we don't see a whole lot of female athletes on such a big stage. This is allowing NASCAR to sort of plant the seed that if you're into motorsports, NASCAR could be the best route for you rather than the Formula's feeder series, open wheels. They're really going to start growing their presence. And I think this is a brilliant move by NASCAR to essentially say, hey, we got to not only just find our diversity class here in the United States, but internationally as well, too. That just makes it where I think a lot of fans are going to start looking at, hey, NASCAR is looking at talented drivers right here. They found this female racer from this country, another one from another country in the future. This is just really building their brand, their identity. And then, of course, as they rise the ladder, as you mentioned, Ben, like Daniel Suarez, race in one of the 3 major series, or even they make it to ARCA, that's still going to be huge news for any of these drivers in the future. So I think this is just big opportunity for them. And then this is also a great move for NASCAR to just expand their presence internationally.
Yeah, well, and Joe, just to bounce off of that real quick as well, Suarez isn't the only one. Bubba Wallace came up through that program. Kyle Larson came up through that program. He's a NASCAR Cup Series champion. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than that. So, the program's already had plenty of success stories, and I cannot wait for a female driver in particular to be one of those success stories and make it to that platform as well.
Definitely, there's no denying that the NASCAR Drive for Diversity class has been a very big opportunity for many drivers in the past. And now to keep looking at Regina, she made more news last week from the NASCAR Mexico Series. So Regina won the vote and will participate in the Mexico Series 2024 season opener at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. So, Joe, here's another question for you. Regina will become the first female driver to participate in this race weekend. How exciting is this for everyone as we approach the LA Busch Light Clash?
It's going to be very huge. Busch Light Clash over at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. It has been a standalone NASCAR Cup Series event. Now you're going to include the NASCAR Mexico Series in there. We know the diverse crowd that's going to be at Los Angeles. This is just another way to get that crowd that may not be traditionally into NASCAR more involved. Just like I mentioned before, now you have a top female racer in there too. This is really just not only going to be great for just the crowd coming to see this new series of racing, but it has the news spread around that she's going to be the first female racing at the LA Coliseum. You may get the fans that attended that first year but didn't turn up the second year. They may now want to come out for that third year right here at the Los Angeles Coliseum. You may have some fans that never really considered it, but now they're hearing there is a female racer participating in the weekend, they want to come out and see it. So once again, I think this is just going to be really huge for the weekend, and then of course for Regina as well too in her progression in NASCAR.
Now, and Joe, I just want to talk a little bit more about how big this is for the Mexico Series, generally speaking, because the weekend is only a couple of years old. I think we have to keep that into perspective here when talking about the history making stat that you just mentioned there, Joe, the first female driver to run a race on this weekend. We've only been going there for a couple of years, but it is still historic nonetheless. But thinking about how much of a success it's been for NASCAR, but they've continued to come back here with the Clash and the Cup Series for the last couple of years now. I've really been thinking to myself, wouldn't it be great if we could get ARCA West out there and have like a support series race on that weekend with, so many new fans coming to the track to introduce a series that doesn't get as much press and doesn't get as much coverage. And, the Mexico Series certainly falls into that category, particularly here in the United States. I think it's going to be a great platform. And again, for Regina in particular, a great opportunity for her to be in front of, Cup Series owners are going to be at the track watching this race. I'm not saying that, that's going to be an immediate projection for her, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have, a series like that be the main attraction when you're getting the opportunity to race on that track yourself just hours before, or just a day before, whatever the case may be. It's a great thing for Regina, obviously, but the entire Mexico Series as well, and a great opportunity for that entire field.
Yep, it's definitely going to be a great opportunity for her. And now, sticking with some more NASCAR news, Jade Avidizian signed to continue racing with Toyota. The Toyota Racing Development Program will continue supporting her efforts to advance up the ranks in NASCAR. Toyota has been very public in supporting female drivers such as Tony Bradinger and Isabella Robusto and continuing their support of Jade. So, Ben, you cover several NASCAR series on Grid Encore. Can we see a female racer shortly in a Toyota vehicle in the Trucks, Xfinity, or other series? What do you think?
I think so. And, I know it's not Toyota, but you're going to have Haley Deegan back in the National Series next year. She'll be racing in Xfinity. And still some rumors out there that, Tony Breidinger obviously has that relationship with Toyota, did a nice, solid job in her 3 starts, I believe it was, with Tricon Garage earlier this year, that she may be a candidate for potentially even a full-time ride in one of those seats in 2024. But Jade Avidizian as well. And Kaylee Bryson's another name that I want to throw out there for people to potentially keep an eye on. Kaylee, I'm not exactly sure what her long-term future is going to look like. I know she has some interest in IndyCar. I think she's done some Trans Am stuff. I don't know how much NASCAR is necessarily on her radar, but I know Toyota certainly are continuing to back her quite a bit. Jade Avidizian, I think, was on record when this deal was announced, when this contract was signed, that her goal is eventually to be racing in the NASCAR Cup Series in the not too distant future. And, to have a partner like Toyota backing her, I think is going to be absolutely fantastic for her development. I think it's already been fantastic for her development, and I'm very excited to see where her future leads her. Isabella Robusto as well. I know she had an injury and a concussion that she had to rehab this season that kind of threw a wrench into her schedule. She wasn't able to do the ARCA races that she was planning on with Venturini, but hopefully she gets that opportunity. And then maybe a couple of years down the line, that leads to a truck or Xfinity ride for her, depending on how well she does there. And Regina Servant as well. I think, Toyota could be an opportunity for her to maybe make some ARCA starts with Venturini. I think that deal was also actually announced for 2023. Unfortunately, those plans fell through as well. But, like we were just talking about, she's got a great opportunity at the start of the year. If she runs well in the LA Coliseum race, maybe that leads to some chances to continue to come back here to the States and run some ARCA races, or maybe even some truck races for her as well in 2024. So I think there are a lot of young female drivers who are candidates for a seat like that. Maybe not in 2024, but when you look at 25, 26, 27, and the paths that they're on, I think the future is very bright for women in NASCAR.
The future is definitely very bright for women in NASCAR, and now that is all for our NASCAR section, so I'll hand it over to Joe to talk about females in motorsport who stood out in 2023.
2024, a lot of great moments, a lot of standout stories that we were able to report on this year. And while we don't have a female grid ranking system out yet, still quite a lot of shout outs, especially Dorian Pin in sports car. Still no word on her 2024 plans, but what an impressive year from the young teenager from France. Just a stellar season. She completed several times with the Iron Dames, and they also had a great season, claiming second in the final GTE standings, and they won the final race. Isha Ben, I know some of our staff members, colleagues, follow sports car racing, especially with the Grid Endurance Performance Index. But this year, with the number of women that we saw having success in sports car, from the Iron Dames, Dorian Pin, we know in past years we've seen the Richard Mille program. Could this bring more attention from female fans, especially in the United States, towards sports car racing?
Yeah, definitely, Joe. I think that this is going to be great for increasing the female viewership that we have in the audience. And I think that it's also going to be great for generating interest in the younger generations of girls who are watching to actually compete and take part in, these various motorsport series. I think that it's very important to see this representation and to see all these females taking part in such amazing series and to, be getting good spots with good teams and actually succeeding. So I think that it's going to be great for the American female audience, and I think that it's also going to be great for the young girls watching from home who, look at them and decide that one day they want to follow in their footsteps.
Yeah, I'll completely echo everything Isha just said. I don't have too much to add, but I will say this, just looking at sports car racing in general, I think when you couple that with the momentum that sports car racing has right now in this country, I know our own Kobe Lambeth talks all the time about how, we're kind of entering a new golden age in sports car racing, if you will. It's a great time to be a fan of sports car racing, a great time to be introduced to the sport as a new fan. So I think that as well is only going to continue to help bring not just new female fans into sports car racing, but new fans, of all ages, of all different types here. It's a great time to be introduced to this discipline of racing. And, it's only going to help everybody in the field as we continue to look at 2024 and beyond.
Very exciting. As you mentioned, the momentum. I know on Wednesday's Grid tonight, you were there talking about the huge field in World Endurance Championship and female attention, fans there. And of course, they're going to have a race at Circuits of America in 2024. A lot of potential there. And of course, the United States, as Isha mentioned, a huge market of fan base. They'll also see an American in F1 Academy with Leah Block. 2023, though, Marta Garcia, she dominated the season and won the inaugural F1 Academy season championship. She's now Formula Regionals for 2024 and her next step on the Formula ladder. Overall, starting with you, Ben, will you say Marta Garcia was the breakthrough performer of the year, or does another driver come to mind from this year's racing season?
Well, certainly in F1 Academy. I mean, it's hard to do better than winning the inaugural championship. So I think that, if you look at specifically that series, Garcia is certainly the breakthrough performer there. And I think she's certainly one to keep an eye on because, Marta Garcia is a name that I've known for, several years now. And people were saying is, far back as 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago, if you want to talk about a woman trying to make it into F1, this might be your best chance with Marta Garcia. This is a name to certainly keep your eye on. I know in the W Series she was kind of in the shadow of Jamie Chadwick, but then again, everybody was with how dominant Chadwick was in that series. Now, the rebirth of the female-only development series to get into the single-seater ladder here with F1 Academy. Jamie Chadwick coming over to the States to race Indy next. That opened the door for Marta Garcia to go out and claim a championship of her own. So I think next year is going to be very important for her development and her future and what that might look like. But as for 2023, absolutely, I think Garcia certainly one of the breakthrough performers of the year for women in motorsports.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Ben here. Not much to add, but Joe, as you mentioned, Marta Garcia dominated the season and she won the F1 inaugural championship. So, there's not much more that you can do to in your like first season in the F1 Academy to become the breakthrough performer of the year. So I think that she definitely takes it for this year. And, as Ben mentioned, there are other females who have done some great things this year, but with her winning the championship and just having such a great dominating season, I think she takes it this year.
Now, I had a lot of attention on the track. There was plenty of accomplishments off the track as well, in more efforts to make the sport more equitable and accessible to females in motorsports. Of course, one of the big things, the Women in Motorsports North America has successful Women with Drive Summit 2 in Phoenix, over 450 people. Now they got the goal of more at Indianapolis Motor Speedway next year in 2024. Shift Up, one of the organizations as well, trying to get more women in motorsports. Erin Vogel, close friend of ours, and just recently announced she's going to be back racing again in 2024, named president of that organization. So a lot going on the track and off the track. Overall, Isha, starting with you, how exciting is 2024 shaping up, and one accomplishment you would like to see hopefully occur on or off the track in 2024?
Joe, I think that 2024 is going to be a very exciting year. Already hearing about all the females that are going to be participating in the different series and that are signing with different teams, I think it's going to be a very fun and interesting year to watch. As far as one accomplishment goes that I hope to see on the track, um, it's a little tough. I don't really see this one happening anytime soon, or at least in 2024. But I would just like to see more female driver participation in F1, as we were talking about earlier with Jessica Hawkins doing a test drive for Aston Martin. Seeing more females get those opportunities and to finally see a female driving in F1, that would be the ultimate goal.
It wasn't that long ago that Susie Wolf did a few FP1 sessions for Williams. So, you don't have to go too far back into the history books to find something like that. It would be great to see somebody get a similar opportunity in not too distant future. But again, Isha, I think, maybe not 24. That might be something we're looking at 2 to 3 years down the road, just as what I would say. I think a female driver winning a NASCAR National Touring Series race would certainly be a tremendous accomplishment, or even an ARCA race. We've seen a couple of West Series wins with Haley Deegan and Gracie Trotter, but never a national tour or national series, rather, the main series for ARCA. So that would be something that I think we might have an opportunity to see maybe next year with, again, Venturini Motorsports being so committed to giving young female drivers those opportunities. If we want to look at NASCAR's top 3 series, I don't know that, as solid of a job as Tony Breidinger did in her few truck starts that she had, I don't think that's a reasonable, realistic expectation to put on her in her first year, just as I don't think it is for Haley Deegan in the Xfinity Series. I think, for them, it's just going to be about continuing to gain experience and building on a path towards a successful future in their first season, should Breidinger get this truck ride with Tricon Garage. And, of course, Deegan with AM Racing and Xfinity. That should be the goal for 24. And then looking ahead to 25, 26 and beyond, the goal will be to win after that. But certainly a long-term goal, for women in motorsports in the not too distant future. And then as well, it was great to see Catherine Legg back at the Indianapolis 500 again. Unfortunately, her race weekend got off to a bit of a rough start after she qualified for the race with a crash with Stephen Wilson. And I think a lot of blame unfairly put on her for what I think was ultimately not just an unfortunate racing incident, but then her race didn't go quite so well either, finishing down in last place. I think, it was great to see her back at the track, but not only would I want to see a female driver back at the Indy 500, because I know that hasn't been a guarantee the last couple of years. I'd like to see, a female driver maybe come away with even just a top 15 or a top 20 finish and run a little bit more competitively in the race. And I know Rahal was really lacking in speed. Obviously, we all know what happened on bump day, so that kind of held Captain Legg back a little bit this year as well. But that would be something I'd like to see in 2024. That's one area where I think we've unfortunately, kind of gone backwards, because it wasn't, again, not that long ago that you had 3 or 4 women in the field every year, when Danica Patrick and Sarah Fisher were still racing and still active. So Simona de Silvestro as well. That's something I'd like to see in 2024 and beyond, is more female participation, not just at the Indianapolis 500, but in the IndyCar series as a whole.
I was going to say, one of the big things for me was the Indianapolis 500. We've gone to just one female racer a year. Catherine Legg did not exactly have the great setup or luck with Rahal Letterman. Like to see 2 and more potentially, and someone full time too. I think it's great. We're seeing a bigger field in IndyCar, 27 vehicles again, 27 teams out there racing. We could have another female out there. That'd be great. And the NASCAR, I think you have great points there. Definitely, of course, Daytona Talladega, they could always be the random wild card where, just playing your luck with the big one and strategy could position yourself. But overall, I think 2020 is going to be very exciting, and we're going to definitely be following what Moto W, the new MotoGP FIM female series, is going to do next year for motorcycle races. So a lot to look forward to in 2024. With that said, now it's time for our one shining moment. This is a little bit different, since this is the last show of 2023 from throughout 2023. So the entire year, starting with you, Isha, what is the one shining moment that stood out for females in motorsports?
This is a bit of a general shining moment, but since it's our last episode of the year, I think that it's okay to go with this. But hearing more and more women and young girls coming into the spotlight and just getting more exciting roles in the various motorsport series, I think is really great. As a female, seeing all these females succeeding and making names for themselves in an otherwise male-dominated industry is really inspiring, and I'm so glad that they have all these opportunities. Because I know that, even up till some years ago in certain series, these opportunities weren't there. Like, for example, the F1 Academy. So it's really nice that these opportunities are being presented. And when you get into thinking about it, there's obviously always ways that things can be improved and more representation can happen. But overall, I'm really happy with the way that this year has gone so far.
Now, if you forgive me, I have a couple as well. I can't narrow it down to just one, but I have to say the whole story, the Iron Dames sports car team, and Dorian Pin in particular, what a talented young driver. I'm really excited to see where her career goes in just a few years' time, and the path that she's going to take. To your point, Isha, as well, F1 Academy, I think, had a great inaugural season. Still kind of hard to tell, where exactly, the drivers that were part of that inaugural season are going to end up, or how beneficial this series is going to be in the long run, given that we've only had 1 year. But, just the fact that we have those opportunities alone, I think a lot of those drivers wouldn't be doing anything or wouldn't be racing at all. I know, W Series, and I guess to a lesser extent F1 Academy as well, kind of come under fire from those that think, there should be absolutely no segregation in motorsports at all. This is one of the few sports where men and women can truly compete on an equal playing field, because the car doesn't know the gender. But I think the counter to that, what W Series introduced and what F1 Academy has continued on, is, it's better than just sitting at home and not having an opportunity at all. And if you go out and succeed in this series, it makes it a little bit easier to find rides where you can compete alongside with the men as well and continue to progress up the ranks. So that's been a great avenue of opportunity for a lot of young drivers, and I'm excited to see that series continue to grow. And last but not least as well, I know we talked about it a few weeks back, but the NHRA championships and what Leah Pruitt accomplished with Tony Stewart Racing this year. Again, I am so thrilled for Doug Coletta to finally get that championship. I know Leah just missed out on it, came so close, but again, as she said in her post-race interview, just the fact that they made it that far is a victory in and of itself for that team, and it's going to continue to give them the momentum to continue to improve going forward and come back even stronger next year. So, shout out to the entire NHRA as well. That the reason that story, I think, wasn't as big is because it's hardly unprecedented for women to have success in the NHRA. And that's hopefully a point that I think, we should be striving to get to with NASCAR and IndyCar and even Formula One in the future. Is, it's not a story that, Leah Pruitt, a female driver, won an NHRA competition. The headlines just say Leah Pruitt wins, because it's not nearly as unprecedented over there as it would be for a female driver to win a NASCAR Cup Series race, or when Danica Patrick won her one IndyCar race, and we're still waiting for somebody else to be able to replicate that. So, lots of positive momentum for women in racing in 2023. I'm excited to see it continue to grow in 24 and beyond.
A lot of positive moments. For me, one shining moment stand out, I think it's just in general, it's sort of two parts, I guess. First, all the female racers that in the feeder series stepping it up, where we saw Jamie Chadwick coming to the United States to race, Formula 4, throughout the dirt tracks across the country, having more females racing out there on the track is great. One standout for me was over at Daytona, Mandy Chicks, and her great effort. It was on this show. I know Ben and I were talking about just log the laps, finish the race. This is Daytona. This is the Arca Menard series. She put on a great race. We had her on the show. A couple more races for her. She, I think, really showed that given the opportunity, anybody can make the best of it. Of course, racing is one of those sports where sometimes luck's on your side, but overall, a great race effort for her, and I think one of the standouts from all the female racers in all the feeder series. And of course, we encourage everyone to comment below in the comment below is a standout moment for you. We are all out of time. We want to thank everyone for tuning in, and once again, a big thank you to our Patreons, Colin the Show, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew, the newest one. Your name could be in gold if you invest in us each and every month. You could also do super chat or buy me a coffee. If you're not watching us live, hit the YouTube thanks button, and the easiest way to support us, hit the bell icon, subscribe. Don't miss any of our programs. Next week, Grid Night, it'll be back on the air. And then, of course, we're going to have some more special programs since we are on the off season. But don't forget January, Formula E in Mexico City, and the Rolex 24 Hours. You do not want to miss any of those programs. For Isa Azim and Ben Schneider, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.